bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place.
Ready? Right.
This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go.
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go. Go.
And a good morning, football fans. Appreciate you streaming in this early with us. We would be Mac and Mac here on Birds 365, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. Our two guests today will be Mike and Mike, not those two knuckleheads who used to work for ESPN. No, we've got Mike Gill and Mike Tanyer joining us today. So we've got a good one planned for you. And John, in prepping for today's show, I realized there's no real on-field Eagles news. They're not participating in OTAs yet. They're holding off a week later than most of the National Football League. So there's nothing really on the field. Oh, but man, we got off-the-field stuff to talk about. Changes in the NFL rules-wise, maybe changes to the structure of the commissioner's job, a little tete-a-tete on Pro Football Talk between Mike Florio, there's another Mike for you, and Howie Roseman, a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside sighting. Oh, we got plenty to sink our teeth into, just not Eagles and what's happening on the field with them. I want to start with the fair catch on the kickoffs, which you and I had touched on earlier this week, and the rather apparent hypocrisy of the NFL that says they're so concerned about player safety, and that's why they want to do away with the very dangerous, high leverage kickoffs. Basically, they're coming damn close to taking them out of the game. Maybe that's why
you might as well ban it at this point. You might as well. I mean, just get rid of it instead of this nonsense.
Start at the 25-yard line. Our Temple guy, Brandon McManus, got cut yesterday from the Broncos because you don't need him anymore. Yeah, you make a field goal. That's it. If you're making $3 million as a kicker, that's too much. Talk about overvalued positions since the NFL is basically doing away with kickoffs. Yeah, just so we can cut our kicker. He's making too much money despite the fact that he's one of the best in the National Football League. I know you said it the other day, and I can't agree more. The NFL talks out of both sides of its face. We're worried about the players. It's all about player safety. That's why we're making this decision. Oh, but you'll move games to Thursday night where there's a chance with short rest, guys are going to get hurt more often. Oh, we'll add a 17 game because that's going to increase our bottom line and the checks we're going to get from the TV. Oh, yeah, they're really concerned about injuries, John, yet they continue to make decisions. If it puts millions in their pockets, they put the players at risk. Oh, they'll absolutely do that. But when they can somehow throw up the flag that says, hey, we're worried about player safety. That's why we're doing away with kickoffs and fair catches, even in the field of play, come out to the 25-yard line. Did they not think that the football fans can see right through this?
I don't think, again, it's been a theme this week. I don't think they care about the fans or what they think. In this particular instance, it's legal indemnity. That's all it is. And by the way, one of the guys, one of the information brokers reported that when Roger Goodell, evidently all special teams coordinators were against this. All 32 of them.
0 for 32?
0 for 32. And
let me ask you a question. Honestly, right here, right now, shouldn't the Eagles be for it? If you're just purely looking at the football aspect of it, I'm sure Michael Clay has high opinions and optimistic about his team. Coverage on kickoffs, you wouldn't say was a strong suit for the Eagles by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but I don't think you want to have that defeatist attitude. And if you end up with a player at some points, whether it's a great kick returner or a great coverage guy, things can shift dramatically. So I from the Eagles' perspective and from Michael Clay's perspective, I don't think you can approach it like that. Like, well, we stink, so I just don't. That's not how those guys think. I mean, and they can't.
All right, so I'm not asking Michael Clay. I'm asking John McMullen, an objective observer from the outside.
In the short term, it'll probably help them because they stink.
Point. Thank you very much.
But yeah, I don't think they can approach it that way, and I understand that. But as Roger Goodell pushed it over the finish line, so to speak, which has become his job, he talked about legal cases, pending legal and future litigation, and this will protect us against that, basically, to the owners. And obviously the coaches don't care as much about that. So, I'm not a lawyer. Sometimes I think I have to be, but I'm not. And so I asked a couple of lawyers, I said, what I mean, is every other opposition lawyer a dummy that can't point to, hey, what you just said, they're talking about out of both sides of their mouth. They do this to protect themselves in this lawsuit, but they don't, they obviously don't care about the players because of this. That's the easiest argument to make in the world. So I don't know, this obsession with the kickoffs, and it's the most dangerous play in football, and NFL modeling says kickoff returns should be reduced by 7% with this rule. And 15% fewer concussions. Really? Can you show your work? Can I get that work? They just make this shit.
You're doubting the analytics of this, huh, John?
Nobody ever releases this information. You know why, Jody? Because it's bullshit. That's why. And they know if anybody with a modicum, if you actually put it down on paper, it's absurd. And what's frustrating about this from a football perspective is you have minor leagues doing it better. The XFL, the USFL. I mean, come on. Well, your ego's that big, you can't say, hey, that's a pretty good idea. Let's just use that. It's not going to affect you. Why do they do the things they do? Sometimes I can't even go down that route. I can't explain it.
Well,
I hope we get into Mike Florio similar. It's like these conspiracy theorist guys. What is the end game? They never start at the end game. What do you think happened and work back before you throw out every insane conspiracy theory. And with the NFL, what is your end game? And work back. If you just want to ban the kickoff, ban the kickoff. If you're worried about legal indemnity, this isn't going to help you. Work backwards. Not
right.
Just throw.
Since you went to Florida, Florio, let's go there next. Yesterday he had Howie Roseman on the Pro Football Talk podcast, and it was almost like a defense attorney trying to question.
Well, he is a lawyer.
I know Florio is, and you and I may play one here on YouTube and or on the radio for me, or in your column, wherever you're writing these days. We have to know lawyer-like things, even though we're not lawyers. And Florio is a literal lawyer, but I did not know that the Pro Football Talk podcast was a courtroom. Because he was questioning Howie Roseman pretty significantly. And yeah, Howie got a little ticked off. Howie got a little short with Mike Florio yesterday.
He called him a conspiracy theorist. And that's, Howie's very disciplined. I laughed about it. Basically that statement was the same statement he gave on draft night when it came down. when they announced the settlements. Talked about the ownership level, blah, blah, blah. Same thing. He said it twice. Mike kept pushing, and then he went to the conspiracy theorist route. And that's what, look, what happened. I've said this pretty consistently. I've reported it. Nobody's going to say it. If you're expecting Howie to go on television or Pro Football Talk or anywhere else and say, Jonathan Gannon lost us the Super Bowl, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that. So if you want to use him as a scapegoat, use him as a scapegoat. That's what I said. But to all these people who think, like Mike was going down the route and so many fans have gone down the route. Again, I ask you, what do you think happened? What do you think happened? Do you think one of the things that amuses me to no end, they played 19 stinking games, Jody. 19 games before the Super Bowl. Right. But all these people compartmentalize the Super Bowl like it just came out of nowhere. Like it came out of nowhere. And these players, by the way, these defensive backs, because that's who I blame. I'm going to be honest with you. That's who I blame for that loss. They were the best communicative defensive backfield amongst the Fangio teams in the entire NFL for the entire season, for the first 19 games. Most of them didn't even get to play the 19th game, obviously. And then they crapped the bed in the second half of the Super Bowl. It happens. James Bradbury, you have two sides of the coin. James Bradbury, accountable. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, not accountable. Yeah, both sides of the spectrum. We have the NFL Films video of Kansas City. Everybody, Andy Reid just embarrassed Jonathan Gannon and just schooled him. They ran the wrong damn play. It's on video. Don't listen to me. Watch the freaking show. They have Patrick Mahomes mic'd up. They handled it better. They handled it better than the Eagles did. Communication. Their communication was great. The Eagles' communication, by the way, which had been great all year, wasn't great. How do you explain that?
It's because Jonathan Gannon was thinking about taking over the Cardinals. Yeah. John, didn't you figure that out?
Of course. And I said, I forget who said it, and I want to give him credit, but one of our recent guests said, it's the NFL. I think it was John Machota. I think it was John. So, it's the NFL. You can have the best coaches. Give me the best players. Players. Now, I'm not saying coaches are unimportant. They're very important. And if you want to blame Jonathan Gannon, go ahead, blame him. But to all the conspiracy theorists, what is your end game? Work backwards. What is the end game? Shane Steichen spent more time with the Indianapolis Colts because he was allowed to during the Super Bowl bye week than Jonathan Gannon did to the Arizona Cardinals.
He had one quick phone call conversation, but I guess that so dissected his brain he couldn't think well enough to prepare for the Super Bowl.
And that's where Mike's been around this. Mike Florio's been around this league for a long time, and you're telling, you're so immersed in Arizona won. And by the way, he's already interviewed for head coaching job. This is not like out of the left field that this guy's never been through this before. But then he gets, we're going to interview you after the Super Bowl. And Jody, because I texted you from the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Not everybody, but a lot of people plugged into things in Phoenix understood Jonathan Gannon was getting that job on Saturday.
Yeah, you did.
It's bullshit. The whole thing is bullshit, and it won't die. So I ask all these conspiracy theorists to work backwards. So figure out where you want it to go and then get it there, because it makes no flipping sense.
And the other thing that you've continually noted since then, and you are 100% correct, Shane Steichen was more involved with the Colts than Gannon was with the Cardinals. And no one is suggesting that Shane Steichen wasn't prepared for the Super Bowl, wasn't ready for the Super Bowl. The reason that Jalen Hurts committed an unforced error, dropped the football in the backfield with no one touching him, Had to be because Shane Steichen was thinking about what kind of offense he's going to run with the Colts. Oh, my God. How could they possibly get through the Super Bowl with Shane Steichen not 100% laser focused? Oh, you don't believe Shane Steichen was capable of doing his job? Okay. But you don't believe Jonathan Gannon was capable of doing his job on Super Bowl Sunday? Come on, folks. Yeah. It's the same exact thing. And the ridiculousness of it, as John has pointed out umpteen times, the rules say that Shane Steichen was allowed to talk to the Colts. Why? Because he had talked to them once before, because it was his second interview. That week he was allowed to be in conversation with the Colts. Gannon wasn't, only because the Cardinals hadn't come around to ask permission yet. So they had to pay the price of the lost spots in the third round of the draft pick, which is ridiculous and ludicrous. Either it's you allow them to talk or you don't allow them to talk. You say, hey, no, you can't have any conversations. They're prepping for a Super Bowl. No can do. You can't make those calls. Or you say, yeah, all right, yeah, fine. Yeah. We have faith. The organization have faith that their guys will stay focused on what they have to do and be able to compartmentalize. The fact that one was legal and the other was illegal was ludicrous into itself. But yeah, everybody's looking for a reason. And you know where it is from the fan standpoint. Mike Florio is a different story. But from the Eagles fan standpoint, they didn't like Gannon to begin with anyway because he doesn't blitz enough. So this just gave him more fuel for the fire to dislike Gannon. Then you throw on top of it that he left and he's not even coming back. So, of course, Jonathan Gannon is going to be public.
Well, and that's why I said use him as a scapegoat. If that's what you need, use him as a scapegoat. It happens all the time in the NFL with coaches. And then that's it. And that's it. Because you don't want to blame the players. I get it. Nobody wants to blame the players. I go with we've been talking about the Sixers a lot. Nobody wants to blame the players. Oh, it's not that Joel Embiid needs this. Joel Embiid needs that. You don't want to blame the players. I get it. You didn't want to blame Ben Simmons for years. I get it. You don't want to blame the players because you love the players.
Until they're no longer with the organization. Yeah. Oh, then they'll throw dirt on that grave real fast, John.
CJ, perfect example. Oh, you got to get CJ back. You got to get CJ back. Oh, it's so disrespectful. Get out of here, you know what? It's part of it. That part I get. That part I understand. From Mike's standpoint, I don't know what he was trying to do. I wish Howie would have went that route. Howie went the conspiracy theory route. I wish Howie would have asked him, like, what do you think happened? What is the grand conspiracy here? What is the grand conspiracy?
Here was the only thing that bugged me about that whole thing, because you and I are on the same page as how it shook out, what conversation were, and what effect it did and didn't have on the Super Bowl. The whole Cardinals self-reported themselves. Why did they even go there?
Bullshit.
I know it's bullshit. I'll go 99.9% it's bullshit. Somebody got word that there was a conversation had, so the Eagles dropped a dime. I don't know if Laurie made the call directly. Supposedly, Laurie and Bidwell negotiated out what the draft pick compensation would be. But I guarantee you, someone from the Philadelphia Eagles organization got in touch with the league office and said, hey, this came down and this just isn't right. You have to investigate. They found out there was a conversation that was had that wasn't supposed to be had. And then they said, we're an agreed party. You got to do something about this, league office. Yeah. And they did.
And I've said from the start, and I don't know this, but my guess is that John Ferrari saw it, and that's his expertise, and said, you know what? We can take advantage of this situation. Let's take advantage of this situation. And they gained some draft capital. Winning outside the margins. That's what this organization is obsessed with. They did it. Congrats to them for taking advantage of a dumb rule, which I wouldn't be surprised if they change it soon. And that's the kind of thing they can do unilaterally. You don't have to go through the rigmarole of the competition committee. They could just change that. I wouldn't be surprised if they changed it, but we'll see.
So let me ask you a question. If we both agree, sounds like me more substantially than you, but basically you're on the same page, that the Eagles ratted out the Cardinals, and they were within their rights to do so. We're not saying how could they do something like that. They did it because they felt at least in part aggrieved, and they thought they could get something out of it. And guess what they did? So good on the Eagles for that. But Why the need to say the Cardinals self-reported? I don't believe that. I don't buy that for 1 millisecond. Does it really look that much more above board? Ooh, the Cardinals self-reported themselves, and that's why.
Save base,
request this, or would it make the Eagles look bad if they were the ones who called the Cardinals on the carpet? Why do you think it was reported the way it was reported?
I think that's sort of what the negotiation at the ownership level is. Look, how can I not look like a blundering fool? And how can I not look like a hall monitor? Jeffrey Lurie and Jonathan and Bill Bidwell. That's my guess with that. It's, how do you save face from both sides? And my guess is, hey, let's blame it on poor Monty. Well, it's Monty's fault. Monty,
right.
First time GM, just got hired. Doesn't know all the intricacies of the rule, say, I made a mistake, and you move on. That's what should have happened. I don't, but because everything is a conspiracy, that's not what happened.
Oh, sorry if I'm throwing a monkey wrench in here by pointing out that bullshit. They're not. If you don't think the Eagles brought it to the attention of the league as to what went down, and the Cardinals did not self-report. Same thing with college football. The teams self-report themselves for violation. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. They're self-reporting. Yeah, no, they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, so then they have to put some kind of cover story out there. Sometimes, and the NFL, college football, both guilty of sin, they really do take football fans and football media members, more so McMullen than me, but hey, what can I tell you, for fools. That we can't see the forest through the trees. That when they got caught cheating, but somehow they go, oh, we cheated. Please give it 3 Hail Marys and we'll say our sorry. Will you forgive us our sins? Stop.
Well,
We're not that stupid.
They're taking, 7% and 14%, Jody. Let's throw some 7%, 14%. Let's just throw it out there and people buy it. People buy it. I see it retweeted 1 million times. All right, show me the study. They're not going to do that.
It wasn't done by John McMullen or Jody McDonald or Mike Gill. We can assure you that. Our buddy from down the shore, 97.3 ESPN, the host of the Sports Bash, our usual Wednesday morning contributor, Mike Gill, joins us next here on Birds 365.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake them out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got the Mac guys, joined by Mike Gill from the Sports Pass, ESPN Radio 97.3 down the shore. I got to ask this question. Anyway, I promise we'll get into football and Eagle football in particular. Is it chilly down the shores too? This week has just killed me. I got to go out and take my dog out at 6 o'clock in the morning. I got to put on a coat.
That's got to be
friggin' late May now. We're days from Memorial Day weekend, and I still got to put a coat on to go out at 6 o'clock in the morning. Cold down the shore too, Gil?
Little frost, little nippy down here. Yep.
Yeah.
Last week I was on the porch. I'm inside today.
Yeah.
What happened to global warming? I thought we were all going to be dead because the Earth was going
It's
to.
coming. It's coming this afternoon. It's going to be in the 80s.
Global warming in the winter when everybody says it's unseasonably warm in January and February. We didn't have any winter this year.
No snow, baby. No snow.
You're telling me there are no seasons anymore. It's all just one big happy year where the temperature changes is 20 degrees.
By the way, I got my Vanderbilt today. I'm on my way. As soon as I get off this call, I'm on my way to Nashville for a couple days.
Wow.
Nice. Where you doing in Nashville?
My girlfriend's son's team made the national championships for rowing.
Nice.
And it's about 2 hours outside of Nashville. So we're going to spend a couple days in Nashville, then make the drive to Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
Nashville, very, very cool town. They did a great job with their schedule release. I don't know.
I saw that.
You saw it. They went on Broadway, got a bunch of fans who knew nothing about the NFL. They showed them the logos and said, "Who is this?" Tremendous. You should watch it. And you're supporting. Let's see, Tyler Steen went to Bandy before
Jordan Matthews.
Alabama. Jordan Matthews, yeah. That Bandy football program. That's
top
in the SEC.
I'll tie this into a little NFC East. The last time, and I have a Vanderbilt shirt because I buy a shirt in every campus I've ever visited. The last time I was at Vanderbilt in Nashville was the Music City Bowl in the year 2000. Eli Manning was the freshman quarterback for Ole Miss, and he was the backup. He came in relief. They were playing my West Virginia Mountaineers. We're up like 30-something. They put Manning in the fourth quarter, and he got near almost brought them back in the game.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting that when Mike Gill represents these schools that he goes by T-shirts from, they're almost always really smart schools.
Yeah. Yale, Mandy,
Vanderbilt. Yeah, he doesn't wear stuff from schools that aren't necessarily known for their academia like West Virginia. Oh, no, that's right. Yeah, you always do wear the West Virginia stuff.
I'm in the Northeast. What do you want me to do?
All right, Gil, let's talk some Eagles football, and it has to do with how the league is moving in certain directions and then what kind of an impact it has on the Eagles. John and I were debating, kicking it back and forth about how the new fair catch rule on kickoffs could actually be advantageous for the Eagles. And John said, well, Michael Clay's never going to admit to that. Nobody's ever going to. The special teams are important, so they're not going to admit. Between you and I, honestly, the roster that the Eagles have, the way they played last year, this is not a bad thing for the Eagles at all. If they have to cover less kickoffs, that's a good thing. They don't really have a great kickoff returner, so nobody's going to take it to the house anyway. So what the hell? If we're starting at the 35-25 because we're fair catching, so should everybody else in the league. In this 1 year look going forward to 2024, at least for now, this decision actually helps the Eagles, does it not?
Yeah, what are they, just waiting for the XFL to go out of business? Like, why not just follow what they're doing? Like, just do what they're doing. They're doing a good thing over there. But, yeah, this helps the Eagles. What I think is more interesting in this whole situation is with this rule and the flex rule. All of a sudden, everybody changed not everybody, but like people just changed their mind from 1 week to the next. Like this got tabled. Who's the muscle that decided like you're putting this through whether you like it or not? Because flex scheduling was on the table. This was another rule that the teams were not on board with. And then they decided, hey, you know what? We actually like this rule. Yeah, it's going to help a team like the Eagles, but they're going to certainly push the safety aspect of it. But you have multiple other leagues doing better things than you. You're supposed to be the standard in this league, yet you're too big to say we're going to do what somebody else is doing because they're doing it better than we are. It makes you look like a schmuck. So you're putting a fair catch in on the kickoff to try to just say we're doing something different as opposed to doing something better. So, yeah, it helps the Eagles. But this is more of a stain on the NFL not being able to adapt and having too much. This is another indication when we talk about they think we're stupid. You guys were talking about this. They have too much pride to say another league came up with something better than we do.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree to an extent when it comes to that, Mike. But to me, this one is completely about pending litigation. So if they just copy the XFL, which you're right, they wouldn't because they don't want to say we're copying a lesser league. But if they just copy the XFL, that doesn't help them in legal cases down the road. Now they can say, hey, we're doing this to make it safe.
Isn't the XFL rule and the AFL rule, the AAF or whoever that was, and the USFL, isn't that kickoff designed so that there's less collisions?
Yes, but again, like the NFL came out with this hokey study, 7% less kickoffs, 14% less concussions. As I told with Jody, all right, where's your work? Show me. They just say this shit. Basically, same thing, though, with the XFL. Yeah, it's safer. Why? Because they said it's safer. Is it? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. But from that standpoint, I don't think it helps the NFL in those pending litigation cases. And nobody's looking to sue the XFL and the USFL because they don't have any money. So it's kind of baked in that they don't have to worry about it. The NFL does have to worry about it because they got a bunch of billionaires trying to protect their you know what. My only point with that is, yeah, but everything else you do is obviously against safety. So I don't know how much it helps you. That's kind of my point.
Yeah, and look, I think they said, what's this, a 1-year trial thing? And I don't know. I mean, they did the 1-year trial on the offensive or the pass interferences, and then that got pushed out. I can't imagine, though, that teams are going to be like, oh, this is so horrible, let's get rid of it. Maybe this is just the first course to them redefining what we know as a kickoff.
Yeah, ban it. Just ban it. Just get rid of it. Start at
that could be next, John. Don't say it too loudly. The NFL may actually go there. And oh, by the way, again, I'm not a lawyer, and even when I play one here on YouTube or radio, or wherever else, I readily admit sometimes I'm making stuff up, kind of like the NFL with the numbers that they throw out. They're making stuff up as I go along. Legally, can Rock hide behind a rock and pretend that he hasn't made millions of dollars doing everything he's done up until becoming the head honcho of the XFL?
I was going to say,
can they try and get some of that SummerSlam or WrestleMania money that Rock made over all those years?
Yeah, they actually have someone that has money. The league might not have money, but he does.
Yeah, I'm going after the Rock. I get a concussion returning kickoffs in the XFL. Let me get my hands on some of that Rock money. Where's my attorney?
Well, that's easy. That's why you have an LLC and you say you can't go after individuals. That's why you incorporate things. So, I think Rock is smart enough, or people that work for Rock is smart enough.
I get myself a good legal. He'll find a way around that. I get my hands on some of that Rock money.
Did you guys get a lot of push recourse on the flex scheduling at all?
Yeah, I'll tell you why it died off again, and it all comes down to whose ox is being gored. Do you think there's any chance an Eagle game's going to get flexed?
No, and we went through the 5 games this year that could possibly get flexed. There's only one that I think could be like in peril, would be the Saints-Rams game. But when you look at it, I was thinking about this because I agree with you, Jody. The Eagles would not be a flex team probably in any scenario. Dallas is one of them, and they play the Thursday before, which is why I'm surprised that game, they play Seattle. They both play the Thursday before and then the Thursday after. They're not going to flex Dallas out of that spot. But when you think about it from this perspective, how many people, the Eagles are just an outlier. How many other fan bases travel to a game? You're only and I say only, this doesn't mean they're not being inconvenienced, but you're only inconveniencing about 5,000 people the NFL sees. Yeah. Meanwhile, they are catering to their television audience, which is about 99% of who's watching that game. So in the grand scheme of things, like, John, you were probably at the game. When the Eagles went to L.A. and played the Chargers that game when it was like half Eagles, how many actual Eagle fans were there? 10,000, 12, 20,000?
Yeah, it's very small. And they mentioned that. And And, that's another number, 7%. They say of their fan
right.
base.
That's what made me think of it, because you guys were talking about 7%. And then in the grand scheme of things, they're saying, look, there might be 5,000 people who have to rearrange their travel because most of the people at home are going to the game anyway. They're not inconvenienced.
Yeah.
Here's what I would do if I were the NFL. I'm spitballing here. Those 5,000 people that Mike Gill just made up a number for, and you might be right, or in the neighborhood.
Yeah, the NFL is going to use that number because he said it. Mike.
Yes. Feel free to open up a toll-free line where if you have proof of hotels and flights and whatever else, the NFL will be picking up your tab. We'll reimburse you for the inconvenience that you had because, oh, by the way, Jeff Bezos has given us billions of dollars. So can we afford to give you your $250 inconvenience fee?
No.
You have to move your flight? Yes.
No.
It's a bucket. Come on, John. It's 5,000 folks.
What they could try to do is have someone try to strike a deal with a chain of hotels and say, if you book at one of those hotels and you book for a game and we flex it, you can get if you have proof, they'll work with you. Same with an airline. This is the official. This is a way to make some money off it. This is the official airline of the NFL. If you book on that airline, they will work with you if we flex a game.
And you know who can do all the paperwork? The commissioner of the NFL, because there's going to be new jobs in the NFL. They're going to have a CEO who's going to be in charge of the business of the NFL, and he'll be the number one on the top of the depth chart. And the commissioner now is just going to be in charge of that somewhat unimportant football aspect.
And by the way, it's going to be me because it was my idea.
Yeah.
To
Roger
split the
Goodell's
job into business and commissioner or the reimbursement of those that got screwed.
Yeah, I'm going to set up the deal. I'm going to set up the deal between the NFL, the official hotel partner, and the official airline. If you book on that airline,
now I see where you guys have gone wrong. Your assumption that the NFL cares at all, which they do not.
Wishful thinking, I know, but what can I tell you, John? I'm a good guy.
Well, that's
I'm thinking of the people, man. I'm thinking of the people.
You and I both, Gil. We'll work on this together.
I'm trying to tell the people the truth. They don't care, and they're not doing anything. And if that happens to you, you're going to get screwed. They don't care. They just do not care. A lot of fans care about, and they're going off in the comment section already. What are these two knuckleheads? Don't see. We're back to Jonathan Gannon. They keep pulling me back in, Mike Gill. This time it's Mike Florio. I'm sure you saw Howie Roseman getting cross-examined. My question to you, and I asked it to Jody, what these conspiracy theorists, and I like that Howie called them that. I think he should have pinned him down a little bit more. What is your end game? What do you think happened? What is it? Just that he was so distracted? That's why the Eagles lost the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Hey, how about it? Scapegoat him. Is that what is the end game?
I have no idea how people think, how they could think in this manner. Look, I don't know what everybody perceives, but this is what I see. The coaching staff as a whole, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, special teams, head coach, and all the position coaches, they game plan together, and they all get together in a specified time. We are going to work on this game. The outside times, I can't imagine everybody is walking their dog with their playbook with them, thinking about.
You got to. It's the Super Bowl, Mike. You can't walk the dog.
Right. Well, it's like, did Nick Sirianni summons Shane Steichen and Michael Clay to the boardroom and say, John Gannon, if you can't make it, don't worry about it. We'll go on without you. You got other things to do. Go tend to that. Of course not. They all have, like, John Gannon has to oversee his position coaches, and they're all going over things. They're not there for 24 hours a day, but there might be a 10-hour window that they're doing that. And if you're there for 10 hours a day and you're not prepared, my God, we're complaining about that. Like, for God's sakes, the guy took a phone call or did whatever, had lunch. You're allowed to go to the bathroom, you know. You're allowed to have lunch. You're allowed to have dinner. That is allowed to happen outside of the window that you're supposed to prepare for the Super Bowl. I know we all think if you were doing that job, that you would be preparing for 24 straight hours for 14 days to get ready for that game. But I'm here to tell you that that's not how it goes down. Did I just break news? That's not how it happens.
To some people, you did.
Yeah, you might have disappointed some people. 24 hours in a day. All right. I do want to ask you a couple of rankings question, Mike. PFF came out with their quarterback rankings heading into the 2024 season. And Jalen Hurts did not break the top 6. He is 7th in the National Football League going into the season. And what PFF is looking at is what they've done over their career, projecting to this season. He had his breakout year, but only 1 year. And the likes of Lamar Jackson, who got hurt at the end of last year, are still ahead of him because he's had an MVP season. Jalen Hurts is not. I would love to come up with some angle for the Eagle fans to be able to go, oh, what a chip on his shoulder Jalen Hurts is going to have. He's number 7. He was just in the Super Bowl. He had an unbelievable Super Bowl. And you're disrespecting him, Johnny's favorite word, by putting him 7th? Come on, Jalen, let's go. But he's already as motivated as they come. So what are the Eagles actually going to derive from the disrespect that Jalen Hurts gets for being the 7th-ranked quarterback on Pro Football Focus?
Well, this is just his life story, isn't it? It's just another peg in the way up to where he's been, constantly having to, do something to prove to people that he belongs. Look, being number 7 is actually kind of interesting to me because you go back to the contract conversation. One of the things with this contract was he only did it 1 year. He had 3 years of work. 1 year was basically a nothing burger, his rookie season. The second year, if that was his only resume, he's not getting this deal. He got the deal based on the 3rd year. That's it, period, point blank. So if this ranking is based on your body of work, his body of work has been 50-50. One very, very, very good, and the other one pretty average. The fact that the other one was so good and the other one was so average pulls him from the bottom half of the league to the top 10. So he should actually be encouraged by the fact that his one season of body of work was so good that it made him in the conversation for top 10 at his position, where if it was the one season before, we'd be talking about him in the bottom 10, would we not?
Not
Right
bad.
around.
Well, after a second season, I had him middle of the road. I would
Okay,
say
maybe
15,
he's in the
16.
bottom half.
Yeah,
But
for sure, yeah.
yeah, closer to the bottom 10 than the top 10.
I'm going to start calling this disrespect season because people get so upset with these lists. I mean, if you don't like a list, go to the next list. Who cares? I mean, and I get why people do it. In this case, that's Sam Munson from Pro Football Focus. It's not even Pro Football Focus. It's Sam Munson from Football Focus. It's one guy. It might be Chris Sims, might be Pete Prisco at CBS. It might be Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk. We were talking about Might be Mike Gill from 97.3 ESPN in South Jersey. Just go to the next guy.
I don't have the patience to sit down and then break hairs of deciding who's 17 versus 18. Like once you get to that spot, I don't give a shit anymore. Like you're just mad to me. So whether you're 17, 20, 25, you're essentially the same guy. You know, there's a handful of guys. You got to ask the question last year about Mahomes or Burrow. Who would I start my franchise with? And my answer was surprising to some that I said Burrow. And people are like, he's not the better quarterback. I said, he may not be better. I don't know that. But I know this. Joe Burrow took a shitbag organization and made them a Super Bowl team. Patrick Mahomes had a team that was pretty darn good, and he stepped in and made them better. Could Patrick Mahomes take a team that was a complete nothing burger their whole lives and make them a Super Bowl team in 2 years? I don't know. I know Joe Burrow could.
Yeah, but if you said you had this conversation before last year, when Mahomes gets his second pelt on the wall and Burrow's still looking for his first, that kind of moves.
Right, but there's a lot of pressure, and it's a different thing when you come in as the number one pick and you're taking the worst team in the league, and he made them, and they're not just the worst team in the league. They're one of the worst franchises, poorly run, poorly thought of, cheap. And he made them a Super Bowl team. He made them a Super Bowl team. I know Mahomes, I said, is the better player. And I probably would say, if you ask me what quarterback I want on my team, I'll take him. But to start the franchise, I know that guy can make a lousy franchise great. I'm not sure that Mahomes can make a lousy franchise great.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Mike, because everybody – look, here's the hardest thing when you rate players, rate teams, rate everything. Everybody's in a different situation. Might be coaching staff, might be organization, might be, and that's what makes it difficult. You know, we talk about the Eagles and the Bengals. I always laugh. You know, if you put the Eagles personnel department next to the Bengals personnel department, it's like 25-5. You know, and I'm ahead of the curve when it comes to Howie Roseman. I used to get a lot of hate. Mike knows. A lot of hate for saying, you know what, Howie's one of the best GMs in football. A lot of hate. Now I've kind of turned. People want to give him credit for everything. Like Jody, I mentioned yesterday when he said they signed all their picks. Who gives a shit? Everybody signs their picks. I'm not giving credit for that. You look at somebody like Duke Tobin. Nobody says Duke Tobin's better than Howie. He might be. He might be for what he's working with. For what he's done with that team and building that roster with 3 scouts, he might be that, but that's that sliding scale.
Here's where I'll say no, because I gotta agree with Gill, even though I take Mahomes over Burrow. Burrow fell into his lap. They finished with the worst record in football, so they had the number 1 pick. And they didn't have to do a lot of film study and get in a room and debate and scratch and claws to who they're going to take. I agree with that. Hey, let me call out Joe Burrow's name. Watch the team go from here to here.
No, by the way, I take
to be fair, they had started to build some foundational pieces so that when Burrow stepped in, he had a T. Higgins. They ended up getting Jamar.
They have more than Joe Burrow. He's done a good job with that roster as a whole. I'm not even saying he's better. I'm saying you can make an argument because of what he has to work with. It's certainly more difficult for him to build the roster that he's built, and it's a pretty good roster beside Joe Burrow. Now, part of it, you're right. You know, if you're bad for that long, you start getting the Jamar Chases of the world because you're drafting so high, and part of that is just the Lions are in that situation too. They were so bad for so long, you wake up one day and you say, oh, they got some good players. So it is very difficult. And, you know, Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid, how much credit do you give to that? I always go back to 99. I say it all the time. I've said it on the show 100 times, Mike. What if Tim Couch ended up in Philadelphia, or Achilles Smith, or even Dante Culpepper was a good quarterback before the injuries took over? What if they ended up with Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb had to go to one of these shitty places? What happens then?
Right. Tim Couch is in the Hall. Tim Couch is in the Hall of Fame, probably.
Possibly. We'll never know.
Or not sacked 473,000 times.
Yeah.
That's probably pretty true.
You wonder that a lot about these guys. Like Tim Couch could have been great. He just ended up in an expansion team and never got the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. David Carr, not Derek. David Carr.
David Carr.
David, he got sacked so much he was destroyed. So you never know. Situation matters.
And every once in a while, when I see David Carr on the NFL Network, he says something that I don't understand. I go, "Oh, it's all those sacks." It's just coming back up to bite him. He's pretty good for the most part, but every once in a while he comes in with something from out of left field. I'm going, "Oh, how many times was he sacked again?" Oh, that explains it. One more question for you, Gill, about the quarterback rankings. Kyler Murray wasn't listed. They put out the list of 32, the starting quarterback of each team, and they chose not to rank Kyler Murray because they believe he's not going to be ready for the season. You, me, and everybody else believes that as well. They did rank Brock Purdy. And if your quarterback isn't going to be your starter week number 1, as seen by the fact that Colt McCoy was number 30 or 31 out of 32 as the Cardinals starting quarterback, Brock Purdy listed as the San Francisco starting quarterback. Now, I think you talk about disrespect, number 23 for the undefeated Brock Purdy before he got to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's pretty disrespectful if you ask me. They're talking about Purdy being ready for the beginning of the season.
Yep.
Some people, I don't know, like John McMullen maybe, thought that he wasn't going to be ready till November. He's going to be there week 1 for the 49ers. Should the Eagles have the fear of Purdy in their heart?
Where was he on the list, by the way?
23.
23.
Just
23. He's going to start throwing next week. I mean, Bryce Harper set the standard. If you're not back in this injury within 6 months, you're a nothing burger.
Exactly.
And yesterday, I guess it was yesterday, Shanahan said, he's like, we have 2 guys that happen to be top 5 picks in this draft, and we have another guy who played like one. That's what he said, right? So it sounds to me he's going to start a throwing program next week. And you would imagine right now he might be the favorite to win that job. And the 49ers, by the way, the Philadelphia Wilt Chamberlains, they got a rule put into place because of what they did. Their defense was so good, that John Gannon guy, their defense was so good.
Whoa, what are you talking about, Mike?
Their defense was so good that they got 2 quarterbacks knocked out of a game. They had to put a rule in to fix it. But, hey, I think them having Purdy in the mix here certainly makes it more interesting out there with 2 top 5.
More than in the mix. You referenced Shanahan. Shanahan said he'll be our starter. If he's good to go, he's going to be their starter opening day.
Now, Joe,
to
defend myself to Jody, Mike, does my mail-in medical degree from Western Samoa, is that less than Sam Munson's from What's the Matter You? Don't believe medical rehab timetables from me or Sam.
Right.
I just know you, and you're a baseball guy, Mike. You're a baseball guy, Jody. You know what UCL means to pitchers. And it's not good. It's not good from a perspective that he got hurt late January, or was it early February by that point? And he got to play in September. I don't know. Bryce Harper's back, but he doesn't throw the ball. He's got to throw the ball.
Yeah, if Bryce Harper was a pitcher, he would not be back right now.
No, exactly. So that's kind of my point. I'll believe it when I see it, is my point.
Keep this in mind, too. Andrew Painter, who is a pitcher, he has a sprain. It's not a tear like Purdy's, but he's been out April, May. He's going to start doing like 120 feet next week in June. So you're talking about 3 months for a guy who didn't even tear his UCL. So we'll see when he's ready to go back. But yeah, I mean, it seems like an escalated timeline. It was probably the last week of January, the first week of February. So you're talking about February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September would be 8 months for him to get back. And if he started a throwing program next week, I would imagine that he would be ready to go by September.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be ripping it next week. I think it would be
120 feet.
And throwing program is, it's probably throwing it to your dog in the
Exactly.
backyard.
Don't think he's going to be doing it with Hassan Reddick
Yeah.
breathing down his neck. But if he is ready for opening day, we can credit a little advancement in modern medicine as well. All right, so you're off to Nashville. Which you're the world travel, both you guys. Which Tennessee town is cooler, Nashville or Memphis? I've only been to Memphis. I've never been to Nashville.
Nashville by 1,000 miles. Yeah,
I haven't been to Memphis. I've been to Nashville. This will be my second time, but it was 20 years ago. The hockey team had just gotten there, so the town was not what it is now. So this will be, I got to call my buddy Teron Davenport down there and get a tour.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Teron's been on the show. Yeah, that's one of the coolest cities in America. I would go to say Nashville.
So I hear. I don't I couldn't remember one thing about. I remember the stadium is like on the other side of the river. It kind of sits there. They're trying to get a new stadium.
They're getting a new stadium. They're locked in. They already locked in. They're gonna ultimately get a Super Bowl. They've already locked in WrestleMania for I don't know.
You'll like it. Maybe I'll go catch a Nashville Sounds game. They're at home tonight.
There we go.
But they really, they've already locked in WrestleMania. I thought Philadelphia next year was as far as they've gone. They're like the Super Bowl now, WWE. They're doing it 3 years in advance.
They announced it. The mayor of Nashville announced it. They haven't announced it, but
really, all right. I'll believe you. As I said, I've never been to Nashville or to Memphis. Give you both a guess here. Why would Jody Mack go to Memphis? One reason and one reason only.
Baseball winter meetings? Were they in Memphis?
Good guess. Incorrect. Gil, you want to take a guess?
Jerry the King Lawler.
Incorrect. Both of you, but nice guesses on both. Mike Tyson against Lennox Lewis.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice.
That's why I was down there. They sent it there. They'll
even better
pay for the radio show to go down if you hype the fight for a couple of days. So we got a free trip to Memphis out of the gig and watched Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis. And we got to hang out in Memphis for 3 days.
Beale Street versus Broadway. I'll take Broadway, but that's me.
Debatable. All right, Gil, always a pleasure. Looking forward to what T-shirt, hype, swag you'll be wearing next week.
I got plenty more in the arsenal, guys. I know people look forward to see which one I'm wearing each week. I'm not running out. I won't run out.
Another university that Mike Gill did not attend. Find out next week who will be repping on his T-shirt. Thanks, Mike. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Mike.
That is Mike Gill from 97.3 ESPN Radio down the show, the host of the Sports Bash that has John McMullen showing up almost every single day. And he'll probably suck him in for a spot later on this afternoon.
Nah, we're taking a break until training camp at least. So I get to breathe a little bit. Probably before training camp. We'll see.
We shall see. McDonald and McMullen, your Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. Coming up next hour, Mike Tanyer, NFL contributor for the New York Times, going to jump in with us here on Birds 365.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Johnny Mac and Jody Mac hanging with you on Bird 365. Appreciate you streaming in with us. While you're at it, if you're so moved, I don't want to be over influential. I don't want to seem like I'm begging. Sometimes, as we've discussed a couple times, a couple different ways.
This is not the day, but yeah, we gotta like the show. Like it. This is not the day. We've upset a lot of people, Jody.
Because we've quasi-defended Jonathan Gannon. Is
quasi-defended?
Referring to
that's all I do. That's all I do.
People do this.
We don't even like the
Jonathan
Eagles.
Gannon.
By the way, the people not figure out I am not an Eagles fan. I am very honest about that. There are cheerleaders. I am not a cheerleader. So that's not the place to come for that.
And I've never been a cheerleader, but some people understand, some people hold it against you. That's okay. We appreciate it. If you just like the conversation, you can still hit the like button, even if you don't like us. Even if you don't like us today, because again, we're coming and they're going to suck me into this, right, McMullen?
Yeah.
The Eagles were the number 2 ranked defense in the National Football League during the regular season.
Yeah, number 1 ranked passing defense.
Seem to overlook that or forget that or whatever.
Number one.
Somehow that has slipped the attention of. So then those of us, this was the best I saw on the stream today. The McMullen and McDonald take of defending Jonathan Gannon is now a hot take because the majority, the people in the right, are those that just destroy Jonathan Gannon and rip him a new orifice. But those that point out the fact that the Eagles were the number 2 defense for the entire year and number 1 against the pass, oh, you're just hot take artists that are trying to annoy the righteous majority of people. Let me make it a question. Do you believe that if you took every Eagle fan, all however many of them are, millions or 2 or 3 or 5, whatever Eagle Nation includes, all those who can sing Fly Eagles Fly, do you believe that more than half of them can't stand Jonathan Gannon? Or do you think it's a minority, but a vocal and outspoken minority who say, yeah, this guy can crash and burn and die as far as I'm concerned?
That's a good question. I think most Eagles fans are pretty passionate. So I would say most have gone over to the hate Jonathan Gannon side.
Passion over common sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I get all the time is, you're too close to Jonathan Gannon. And as I mentioned, I got news for you. I'm closer to Shane Steichen than Jonathan Gannon. But nonetheless, and by the way, as you know, because you do the show with me, I've been criticizing the guy's scheme from day one, Jonathan Gannon. I don't like it. I'm the one who doesn't like it. I'm pretty consistent with where I am, but I also give the guy credit. It's ironic because people want me to be a cheerleader, Jody. But when I point out the good parts, number 2 defense, number 1, Then it's ironic that the Eagles fans go down the route of, oh, they didn't play anybody. Anytime they play a good quarterback, they fail. Like the 31 other teams in the league, they all have this difficult schedule. And the Eagles are, and you're the Eagles fan because that's how blind you want to hate this guy. And I said, hey, use him as the scapegoat. Do what you need to do to get through the day. But it's ridiculous. They had the number one pass defense in the NFL, as you mentioned, the number 2 overall defense, 70 sacks, turnovers all over the place, limiting explosive plays. What's not to like? And poor freaking Sean Desai. If that's not good enough, again, how do you get to the Super Bowl? That's an accomplishment, getting to the Super Bowl. You don't just get there every year and say, oh, and by the way, they played great the first half of the Super Bowl. It was only half of the Super Bowl. That's not good enough. This guy's a disaster. This guy's the worst thing. This guy's the worst coach in the history of the NFL. By the way, not me. He got a head coaching job. And oh, by the way, Jeffrey Lurie tried to convince him to come back with a massive raise. Not my fault.
Very true on all fronts. One interesting question off what you just said. 2 things. Number one, his defense, you were describing, John. You didn't like his scheme, Jonathan Gannon's scheme. It's not really even his scheme. It's someone else's scheme that he adopted. But I guess once you take it under and you're calling the plays or whatever, it becomes your scheme. Even though you call it, I call it, everybody calls it the Fangio scheme. But if you take it, then I guess it is your scheme. So that's interesting. And you're right about Sean Desai, which, oh, by the way, you were there. I wasn't, but I watched the entire video. I thought Sean Desai was smart, impressive, even savvy with the way he did play up to the Philadelphia fan base that we want to be like our city, gritty. And so he handled himself very well, which is nice. It really doesn't mean a whole that much because I remember Nick Sirianni's first ever press gathering was a pretty close to complete failure. And now Nick Sirianni is held on high here in this town because he's done the job actually coaching. The actual coaching does outweigh how you handle yourself. But first impressions are first impression. You only get one shot at it. I thought Sean Desai was very good. How is he going to handle the fact that they're not going to put up the numbers that they did last year? Hey, if they do, if the Eagles are number 1 in defense and they get 72 sacks, you can call me on WIP. You can stream us here. You can hit me up on Twitter at Jody McMahon and just lambaste the snot out of me. But I'm pretty comfortable in this statement. The Eagles' defense will not statistically be as good as last year's defense under Sean Desai. And Sean Desai had to know that.
Yeah.
Any hesitation in taking the job when he got offered it?
No.
Said, I'm going to get killed here?
No, there's only 32 of those jobs. So, no, there's never any hesitation. Similar to what we talked about with Michael Clay when we're talking about, well, should you like this rule because your team stinks? He's not going to think that way. You can't think that way as a football coach. Can't. So he's not going to say, woe is me. He's going to say, wow, I got Hassan Reddick. I got Josh Sweat. I got Brandon Graham. Now I got Nolan Smith. I got all this young talent, Nakobe Dean, Sidney Brown, they seem to like a lot. He's going to play up the positive aspect. That there's 3 teams in the history of football that have 70 sacks. I mean, you're going to go back to back. I'm sure when he's sitting at night and laying down again, I'm not going to get 70 sacks. Reddick might be better. Sweat might be better. Brandon Graham might continue to play at the level. Jalen Carter, I think, is going to be better. This is you want a bold, positive statement? I think Jalen Carter is going to be better than Javon Hargrave next year as a rookie. That's how talented I think Jalen
How are
Carter
you
is.
determining that?
Impact, not sacks. Sacks are an overrated stat. Impact on the game. I think he's going to be a better. I think
you got to be a little bit more defining that, John. That's pretty damn subjective. And you and I disagreed last year because you kept pointing to Jordan Davis and the impact that he had on the day. You got to show me something. You and I aren't sitting down, breaking down game film and being able to see where he took up 2 blocks that allowed another player to make a tackle.
Well, they're different players. That Jalen's got to get to the quarterback at time. Jordan Davis is, and you remember when the Eagles drafted Jordan Davis, I was concerned because I said, this is an esoteric pick. I use that word. Haloti Ngata. I can't show you anything other than the all-pro accolades and coaches raving about the guy. We were talking about, who was talking about Vita Vea the other? I can't show you stats with Vita Vea, but I can show you the Buccaneers are the best run defense in the NFL for 3 consecutive seasons.
Then did Jordan Davis have a bad year last year? I know he got hurt, but when he played, the Eagles were like 12th. If we're going to give Vita Vea credit because Tampa is that good against the run, and we believe it all starts at Vita Vea and expands out, which keeps Tampa at the top of the run defense in the National Football League, Eagles are middle of the pack. They're great against a pass, and the pass isn't Jordan Davis's forte. He doesn't create pressures and sacks. Did he not get the job done last year because the Eagles were middle of the pack against the run?
Not necessarily because they put too much. Now, where he didn't play, and they were, that injury really impacted things. So he didn't play nearly enough to get a real good feel. And by no means, his upside to me is Haloti Ngata in his prime, not when he was here. His upside. His upside is Vita Vea. That's his upside as a player. Some people, like our buddy Damo, think he can be a pass rusher. I don't even worry about that. I don't care. I'm not worried about that part of it because the Eagles got pass rushers all over the place. Jalen Carter's a different player, different position. He's got to have more of an impact on the pass rush. Jordan Davis is always going to be more esoteric, and I can't point to it. Now, Javon Hargrave is bad against the run. He's bad against the run. Not even mediocre. He's bad against the run. Great pass rusher, great interior pass rusher. When I say Jalen Carter is going to be a better player, he's going to be better against the run. That's going to be easy for him, to be honest. He's so dominant physically.
All right, well, then you think the Eagles are absolutely going to be better against the run this year? Because they've replaced a lesser run defender right in the middle of their line, assuming Jordan Davis is more healthy than he was last year. How many games he missed last year? 5?
4 or 5.
4 or 5. We'll give him 5. We'll go at the other end. So assuming he only misses a game or 2, so you're getting 3 more games out of him. The Eagles are just going to be better against the run because they've gotten their Vita Vea-like guy on the field more often.
No, but they're putting a lot on his plate. They are putting a lot on Jordan Davis's plate. And see, here's the problem. Like, are they going to be better against the run? 1, he's got to be better. He's got to be better. 2, what is Sean Desai doing? I assume, and it's a good assumption, he's going to run the same defense, which means light boxes, right? So not only it's got to be that triangle in the middle, Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Nicholas Morrow versus, say, Linval Joseph, TJ Edwards, Kaiser White. I'd rather have Davis than Joseph, but I'd rather have Edwards and White than Dean and Morrow. So, I think the Eagles need to do more at linebacker. Nakobe's going to play, but they need something. They need an upgrade that we've been talking about over Nicholas
Queen.
Moore.
All it'll cost you, John, is a 3rd-round pick.
Well,
get your hands on a top-flight linebacker.
I mean, he's well. You and I have different definitions of top flight. He'd be better than what they have, no question about that. I don't think he's a top flight linebacker. Now, Howie Look, I'm just giving you my thought process on Howie. I don't think Howie's going to value that player at that level. Day 3, I think it's a different conversation. Is he better for this team? Yeah, they could find somebody off the street. I haven't looked at the linebackers left.
See,
but
now
I'm
you're
sure
just disrespecting Patrick Queen. Now he's just
it's
somebody
disrespect
off the street.
season. Yeah. I mean, I'm above board.
You and I both call people on the carpet when they overemphasize disrespect.
It's disrespect
well, you're going
season.
there, McMullen. They can find anybody off the street and be a better linebacker than Nicholas Morrow, like Patrick Queen. That's disrespect.
No, if I said anybody, I shouldn't have said anybody. But they can find some. What I meant is, I'm sure there's a free agent. I haven't pulled up the list. I'm sure there's a free agent out there who hasn't signed a veteran who's better than Nicholas Morrow. They don't even have to go the trade route, is what I'm trying to say. Not anybody. Patrick Queen is significantly better than Nicholas Morrow. I didn't mean to say that. But you keep saying top flight. We just disagree. I don't think he's a top flight linebacker. I think he's average to above average. I think he's played 3 years. He was well below average for 2 years. He was above average last year. Does that continue? Maybe. Maybe he's trending in a positive direction.
That's the way
Possibly. But you think more of him as a player than I do. I'm very above board about that. Would he be better for this team? Yeah. I mean, this team, that is the clear biggest weakness on this team.
That's
clear.
That's my point, John. And thank you for adding to it. In another way, building, what was Gill talking about? Oh, the Burrow Mahomes thing. Starting the franchise from day one, very first pick. You got nothing else around them, and you got to make that pick. I'm not going to be a Patrick Queen guy to the level I am. I'm talking about the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles as they exist in reality right now. Despite what Peter King said, a team with no weaknesses, I see a weakness. It's linebacker. It's certainly more Nick Morrow than it is Nakobe Dean, because you know how big a Dean fan I am, projecting going forward because he played all of 30 snaps last year. So it's, yes, a very big projection. That's it. That's the hole. That's the biggest weakness. And if I have to pay a little bit more than I'm used to paying to upgrade at that position, if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman, I'm doing it. That to me, this is in a vacuum at a position where the Eagles have a major question mark when they don't really have one anywhere else. Why wouldn't I go above and beyond to solve that problem?
Well, I mean, do they like the player? Do they like the player?
Not as much as I do.
I can't answer that question. Do they like the player? I mean, I'm sure they like his athletic traits. It's tough not to. Again, last year, I'm just pulling it up. Last year, so if we want to use PFF, he was 31st out of 81 linebackers. That's solid. It's not great, but it's solid. It's above average.
And what was Nicholas Morrow?
Well, that stipulated he's a better player than Nicholas Morrow. But guess what? In 2020, he wasn't even that. As a rookie, 82 of 83, Jody. 82 of 83. As a second-year player, 71 of 86. 71 of 86. It'd be fair to say through those first 2 seasons, he was an abject disaster as a player, as a first-round pick. And if you were watching him every week during those first 2 seasons, like you were watching Derek Barnett here, you would have a completely different thought process on Patrick Queen.
No, I didn't watch him this year the same way I didn't watch him the 2 previous years. I'm not breaking down game film on Patrick Queen. I have my opinion based on all 3 years, and certainly, yes, trending in a direction. When a guy is a rookie coming into the league, you got kind of a little slack. Expect a little bit more. Expect more. He's done that. He's improved both of his years. And yes, at the age of 25, prime time, I think he is with better players around him. And Baltimore's defense is good, but I think the Eagles' front line is better with better guys in front of you. I think he'd be that much better here in Philadelphia than he was in
hey, you know me. And by the way, another guy much closer to Jim Schwartz than Jonathan Gannon. I'm a big startup cost guy. That's part of it. And, Patrick Queen had a lot of startup costs. As a first-round pick, though, you can't be 82 of 83. You got to be better than that. He could. Look. I don't think he's a great player, but we got to get to Mike Tanyer. I see him.
Just a quick question, if you got it in front of the PFF, what was Hurts' rookie year? Quarterback ranking, coming in, playing for Carson Wentz afterwards. I'm guessing he wasn't all that highly rated.
No, certainly not. He was 37 of 38.
Yeah, okay.
37 of 38.
So Patrick Queen's rookie rating at the very bottom. Somehow Jalen Hurts was able to overcome being 37 out of 38. I'm guessing Patrick Queen can do that.
Well, if you want to go that Jalen Hurts is going to be, Patrick Queen's going to be second in the Defensive Player of the Year voting because I'll give him a break. It doesn't have to be MVP. I'm gonna bet the house on that not happening, Jody McDonald.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that a guy can have a rookie year where you go, oh, well, look at him. Oh, my God, he's next to last. How can you expect a guy next to last to be able to elevate to those standards? Jalen did it. And I'm
14 of 37 as a sophomore, Jalen Hurts, not 76 of 81 with Patrick Queen level.
Understood, but Queen elevated well in his third, and I think he's going to get better in his fourth year. All right, coming up next, we're going to go to our buddy Mike Tanyer, NFL contributor for the New York Times, talk about all things NFL and how they relate to the Eagles here on Birds 365.
Weather forecasting is a team game.
We rely on each other every day, updating the models and passing along new critical information.
We have a team of 5 experienced meteorologists and a specialized weather producer, Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Sometimes what I see in the model, Cecily could see something different.
That's when we come together as a team to make our most accurate prediction.
And all of this backed by more than 100 AccuWeather scientists. It's a team game.
And we have the best team in town.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Celebrating the life of your loved one is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givnish. When the matriarch of the Dalloway family died suddenly at 82 years old, Life Celebrations by Givnish stepped in.
They will make this the easiest thing that it's I know it's not easy, but they will make this as easy as possible.
Life Celebrations by Givnish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
I just know that my dad, who is in charge of everything, was not in charge of anything at that point when my mom passed. And again, just another shout out to this place for making it easy.
Turning tragedy into a celebration of life, no matter how hard, is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givnish. Life Celebrations by Givnish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
EAGLES. Eagles.
We got John McMullen and Johnny McDonald, and we got another bearded wonder with us. Always great when we get a chance to spend some time with Mike Tanyer from the New York Times. Mike, I know you checked in early, so you heard the little end of John and I going back and forth. I'm a bigger Patrick Queen fan than he is. We were using analytics to evaluate how Patrick Queen should be looked at. So I'm going to start you with an analytical question. Really simple one, as a matter of fact. Over, under. Catches during the season by J.J. Arcega-Whiteside on the Atlanta Falcons, 1/2. The over-under is 1/2. Will J.J. Arcega-Whiteside catch one ball for the Atlanta Falcons this season?
Where are you getting over-unders on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside? What sports?
He just signed yesterday with the Falcons. I figure we showed J.J. some love. Supposedly, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles was a big fan of J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
Oh, yeah. He loved
him. That John, what were the 3 picks that the owner is?
The only 3 picks were magically Lane Johnson, Russell Wilson, and Jordan Mailata. The only
those were
3,
those were the Jeff Lurie influence.
Yeah,
and much to his chagrin, at least by some reporters reporting, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, that one hasn't quite worked out. But because of that, J.J. will always be remembered here in this town.
Yeah.
So I'm allowing you, Mr. Tanyer, to tell us, will he or won't he catch a pass for the Falcons this year?
What position is he labeled at? Wide receiver, tight end, or long snapper?
It doesn't matter. All you got to do is catch a pass. He can play any one of them if he catches a pass.
More to add that kind of dynamic playmaking ability to Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Even though you don't have a quarterback, you don't need a quarterback, right? They're doing things the right way, right?
Mac Hollins is there too.
Yeah, well, good, fair point.
The entire 2019 special teams is there.
Yeah.
And Bijan Robinson was all but an Eagle, if you believe some of the Eagle fans, that they should have taken him, but they unfortunately did not.
He was all but an Eagle, all but a Bill, all but a Cowboy. I'm going under on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, but I'm not taking the action. I'm not betting on somebody getting one catch because week 18 could come of that.
That's right.
And it could be benching everybody, and everybody could be injured, and he catches a screen pass, and good for him.
That's true. That's true.
He was on the Seahawk practice squad for months last year, so he may be on the. Is he too old now, John? With the what? I confused.
No, you can put anybody on the practice squad now. You can have veterans on the practice squad. Yes,
it's been a while. He actually is considered a veteran at this point. Surprisingly so. It just seems like JJ was drafted last week, but that's me. Mike, we appreciate your jumping on board. I will ask you another statistical question. PFF came out with their quarterback rankings and had Jalen Hurts at 7.
Sam Munson. I want to make a correction, not PFF. Sam Munson.
Sam Munson of PFF came out with his quarterback rankings. Is Sam Munson disrespecting Jalen Hurts, ranking him as the 7th quarterback in the league right now?
I'd have to look a little bit at the procedure, the logic. He's saying quarterback, not passer, I would assume. So he's
quarterback
rankings. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, 7 sounds without low. Sitting here and counting, sounds kind of okay. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, I hope, is number 1.
Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Rodgers,
Mahomes, Josh
Lamar.
Allen.
Wait, Herbert's ahead of him?
Herbert's ahead of him. Aaron Rodgers, your favorite, is ahead of him. Lamar Jackson is ahead of him. I think that sticks with people.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, that's because Aaron Rodgers, you're saying, well, based on what he did a couple of years ago, he's still this. And with Justin Herbert, you're saying, well, if everything else around him is super extra special perfect, he's going to be this. So you're projecting that. Lamar Jackson, well, if 2019 returns and he never gets hurt again and all these other things happen. I love Lamar, but that's a little bit of projection. I could see justifying any one of them based on like a logic above Hurts, but all 3 of them above Hurts. It's just projection. Ignore what's actually happening right now on the field, which is Jalen Hurts leading this team, winning games, doing things with his arms and legs. But I guess that's PFF logic. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is 8 right behind, so there's a lot of projection there at number 8. And I like Trevor Lawrence a lot, but there's just a ton of projection. But that's, I call this disrespect. I'm starting disrespect season. Like everybody's disrespected all the time. Am I disrespecting Patrick Queen too much? Jody says I'm disrespecting him too much.
You did.
One thing about PFF, they hated Patrick Queen from Jump Street. He did have a very bad rookie year.
Jump Street.
When somebody sort of gets a reputation there, they kind of keep it.
Yeah.
I think Queen has improved.
He's definitely improved.
And you can see the absolute talent. He's one of these guys who will run himself out of position. He can run like the wind, and sometimes he'll get beaten on a fake and things like that. And when you do things like that in the PFF method, it's like, oh my God, he bit on a play fake, didn't get back on time. You get like a -27 in the ranking. you do all these other things.
By the way, Devin White's same thing to me.
Yes.
So athletic, so explosive. I've never seen anybody, Mike, have a 3-game stretch like he had en route to winning a Super Bowl. He was the best player on that team, including Tom Brady.
Right.
He was the best player on that team. And in a regular season, all he is an athlete running himself out of plays.
Right. So if you're talking about somebody like Queen saying, well, what if you trade for him? And what if you change his role and things like that? You have to respect the amount of talent that's there, and that maybe he didn't jibe with the coaches, didn't jibe with Wink, the other coaches there, and say he's got that value. On the other hand, I think you do have to reflect maybe this guy's a liability in coverage to a degree that you have to be concerned about him. But I mean, if I had Queen, I'd be finding ways to work with him. I wouldn't be like, we got to replace Patrick Queen because, sometimes he makes mistakes in coverage.
I just think he'd be a nice fit for the Eagles defense for this upcoming year. All right. We haven't had you on since the NFL schedules came out, Mike Tanyer. And John and I both have fun, kind of poking fun at some Eagle fans. The disrespect for the Eagle. Opening up in New England. How dare they do that to the NFC champs? It's just utter disrespect and the like. I actually think the Eagles' schedule worked out really well for them. They start with very winnable games. You knew when the schedule came out, damn, there are much better teams on this year's schedule than last year. So there was going to be a segment of the schedule that was going to be difficult to get through. They have that week 10 through week 15. And then you had to finish up Giants, who you own, Cardinals, Giants. It starts easy, it ends easy, and you got the real test right in the middle, which you're going to have to do when you get in the playoffs anyway, play other good teams. I think the NFL couldn't have done the Eagles more of a favor by lining up their schedule the way they did. How about you?
Yeah, I think there's like some boogeyman teams at the front, especially for Eagles fans. Well, the Patriots are going to be a boogeyman team no matter how weak they are, no matter how unimpressive Mac Jones is. They're always a boogeyman. The Vikings, your mileage may vary on whether you take them seriously or not, but they're a playoff team. The Buccaneers still have this, you still have Tom Brady. You still have a playoff loss a couple years ago in your head, even though they're not on the team.
Okay.
That should be a 3-0 start. That should be a 3-0 start if the Eagles are the team who they claim to be, and I think they are. That middle is brutal. But it's right. You can see a situation where they take 2, 3, 4 losses in the middle of this Chiefs, Bills, 49ers, Cowboys gauntlet, and then come out and get 3 wins at the end and position themselves well in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think it makes sense. I honestly don't care when they play in primetime or when they don't play in primetime. Frankly, I like it when they play in primetime more because it's easier for me to watch all the other games at 1 o'clock. And I think some fans agree on that. But the big issue is it is a tougher schedule. No matter how it lines up, it's a much tougher schedule than last year. And that's going to impact probably our expectations for the Eagles this year and what their final results are going to be.
Yeah, that's fair. NFC East as a whole, Mike, I think, we all expect it to be a 2-horse race at least. And then it's kind of, what do you feel about the New York Giants? We've been having a lot of fun with disrespect. I disrespect the Giants. I'll raise my hand. I don't believe in the New York Giants. Where are you on the scale of the belief with the New York Giants?
I'm with you. I think they were a 500-ish team last year that made the playoffs. I think they're a 500-ish team this year. They're an odd team not to have tried to really, really improve themselves. They're an odd team that said, we're going back. We're running it back with Daniel Jones and Saquon, and things like that. Now, I think part of what they're doing is they're trying to build very methodically, and that's why they didn't go in and go all in this year. They could look at this division and say that could be a waste of money. The Giants did that in the past; it failed. But I see them as pesky, but I don't see them as some team that's going to go out and make this leap and compete with the Cowboys and the Eagles.
So if Joe Shane did it right, they had a good draft. All right, they're not catching the Eagles, and they're probably not catching the Cowboys this year. But do you think they're doing it? Are they doing justice to their fan base by going, listen, we know we're 9-7-1. We know we want a playoff game, but truth be told, we know the Eagles and the Cowboys have better rosters than us. We're going to do this step by step by step. Do you think the new general manager and the assist from the coach are actually doing it the best way?
I think so, with the caveat that they inherited such a weird situation from Gettleman that they're still sort of grinding out what's happening. And I think they were caught off guard by their own success last year. I think the logic there was, we're going to go out there with Danny Jones. He's going to kind of prove once and for all he's like this third tier, fourth tier guy, and we're going to start over and we're going to win 5 games. And Saquon's going to get hurt again. Instead, they have this great season. and so you're kind of, as a general manager, you're kind of fish nor foul, because you can't just jettison these guys. You do see some growth from Daniel Jones. And one thing they did well is they came up with a contract for him, which boils down to like a 2-year mid-tier contract. They didn't give him Jalen Hurts money. So they're trying to play both sides towards the middle, and that is very delicate. So I think on the one hand, they did the right thing. We're going to build slow and steady. The flip side of that is I don't think Giants fans necessarily see it that way. They think that Jones has arrived, Saquon should get a $90 million contract or whatever, and this team should have done more in the offseason to catch the Eagles and Cowboys. And
by the way, to be fair, I think the Giants are headed in the right direction. I think they're finally making good decisions. I think Joe Shane has proven to be one of the better young GMs in football. I love Brian Daboll as a coach. I just don't think they're ready from a talent perspective. NFC as a whole, Mike, when we look at this Eagles team, they have some issues, a lot of different faces on the defensive side of the ball. I'm a little bit more concerned about the continuity on the coaching staff because I went through it in Super Bowl 52. Yeah. I mean, Frank Reich left, John DiFilippo left, and it wasn't the same. I think it's something to keep an eye on. But clearly, this is a talented team, especially it's not the AFC where you got a bunch of talented teams. Who will be the challengers to the Eagles for NFC supremacy? Other than San Francisco, I think we all know that's a good football team. They got to figure out quarterback. Yeah. Anybody ready to make that leap to be a real contender on the NFC side?
The Cowboys, they're sitting right there. You add Brandon Cooks as like your number 2 receiver. That's significant. You add Stephen Gilmore as your number 2 cornerback. That's significant. So they're quietly putting the things in place to get better. Probably have a healthy Dak Prescott instead of Cooper Rush for an entire season. Those are significant improvements. They get a little bit of an easier schedule this year than last year, a little easier compared to the Eagles even, I think, right now. That's it. Beyond that, it is hard to say. And the 49ers, like you said, it's hard to say. I like razzing the fans from other fan bases, and I like razzing Falcons fans for some reason because they're still mad about 28-3. And Falcons fans will come at me and say, we're a 10-11 win team this year with Bijan and Desmond Ridder. And I'll joke at them and razz them a little bit. And then I'll look at their schedule and I'll look at the guys they added on defense, like Jesse Bates. And I'll be like, you're right. The conference is so bad. The NFC is so bad. The NFC South is so bad. That, you go out there like sort of professional with a good defense and a good running back, you might be a 10 or 11 win team because you're going to feast on the Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield. You're going to feast on the Panthers, who have nothing besides the rookie quarterback. So that's what we're looking at. The other challenger is probably going to be some team like the Vikings last year, who wound up winning 12, 13 games, getting home playoff games because they faced it on these weaker schedule. Could be the Lions, for example, who I think are a lot of people's darlings. Things break the right way. Jordan Love doesn't work out. Vikings fall back to earth. All of a sudden, the Lions are this team that you have to worry about.
Here's my Dallas question for you. Who's getting Ezekiel Elliott's 231 carries and 12 touchdowns this year for Dallas?
Anybody. It's fine. Pollard can take some of it. I'm actually looking at who their backups are right now. Deuce Vaughn's a pretty good. I don't know anything about the other guys on this line.
Somebody's got to do that work, Mike. You don't just create 12 touchdowns like Zeke had last year.
You do create 12 touchdowns because you create them by passing the ball down to the 1 yard line and giving them to whoever, which is kind of how those touchdowns get generated there. So those touches are going to get absorbed by CeeDee Lamb, by Brandon Cooks, by Michael Gallup, by the new tight ends, etc.
So you think they throw the ball that much more this year because they don't have Zeke Elliott?
They throw the ball more, and those carries are absorbed by a bunch of guys that we had never heard of. And when they go out and they get a 15, 20-yard run here and there against the 6-man box where the safeties are back, in the parking lot.
We know about that, Mike, in Philadelphia. We know about that.
Like if they had Boston Scott, would you be like, well, Boston Scott's going to absorb those carries? Well, Boston Scott's a pretty good ball player. There's guys on the Cowboys bench who are good enough to take up most of Zeke's value.
All right, well, let's talk about that from an Eagles perspective. If I said the Eagles lose Miles Sanders, he's in Carolina. He's one of their few playmakers, along with Adam Thielen that C.J. Stroud's going to have to deal with. If I said who's going to be the lead back in Philadelphia, and I give you Rashad Penny, DeAndre Swift, or who cares, which one is more important to you?
It's probably who cares, because behind this offensive line, they're going to get production from this combination of guys, just as the Cowboys will with their offense. They have a pretty good offensive line still. So what I think will happen is it'll be Penny until he gets hurt. Penny's is injury prone. That's pretty well established. It will be Swift, unless Swift starts making some kind of like mistakes that kind of frustrated the coaches out there in Detroit, where he had a very good offensive line. And if you committee these guys and you throw Gainwell, Scott, whoever else is out there, you're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. What matters is offensive line continuity, which the Eagles have. Hurts. I was worried more about finding a better slot option, finding a better tight end 2 option than the Eagles have right now. I was a little disappointed that they didn't make a lot of effort in that place, but I'm not worried at all about what happens at running back, because this committee could wind up putting together 1,800 yards easily.
And by the way, real quick before you jump in, Jody, I meant Bryce Young. I know I said CJ. It's for Carolina, so I got to correct myself. You know how people are.
Quick to point out mistakes. All right, let me try and make a mistake here then. Who's going to replace Roger Goodell when Roger's done? There was a Irsay saying yesterday, we're probably going to have a new structure to the NFL. We'll have a CEO who'll be in charge of business, and then a commissioner will be in charge of football. So it's going to be 2 jobs. How are football fans going to handle it? They love to shoot their ire at Roger Goodell. Now you're going to have to split it to 2 guys, a CEO and a football guy. How the hell are football fans going to be able to get upset with the National Football League?
That's a good point. I think Irsay lost track of the fact that Goodell's biggest job is to go out there and be the guy that everyone yells at. Like,
be the heel, the lightning rod.
The heel. There's a true heel for you. Yeah. Roger Goodell's a heel, Johnny Mac. You are 100% correct.
Yeah, you guys call him, he's the Bond villain, right? He's Blofeld.
Yeah. He's stroking the cat in his basement. You remember the pandemic? He had the cat in his basement, stroking it like Blofeld.
Mr. Bond. Yeah, that's his job. So what would happen is I think that job would fall to the CEO, if that's how they do it. If they do it by the way Irsay is discussing it. And the CEO would probably be somebody with no football background whatsoever. And that person would probably be the heel. Okay?
Yeah, but here's where I might have to differ and disagree. I think Goodell gets as much heat for anything else as he does being dean of discipline. That when he gives out the punishments to the guys for what they did, and it doesn't compare completely to this other punishment that he's given out. That's what he comes under fire for more than anything else. And I got to believe that'd be the football guy. You're not going to make the CEO guy become the dean of discipline, are you?
It'll definitely be the football guy. The football guy will be the Roddy Piper. He will be the guy. And by the way, if Roger Goodell was smart, he would when he did leave, he'd say, "I'm so good, they got to get 2 people to replace me," and then just leave as this great heel.
Well, the thing is, he's not going to leave for 3-4 years. I forget the contract. So it's so future. So maybe you need 3 guys. So I think they were using John Runyon for a while as a discipline guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he still is.
Perfectly. Let the inmate run the asylum, right? Yeah. So you have that person there. Then you have Troy Vincent as the football guy who's like kickoffs and things like that, etc. and then you have the CEO, and then you have the triumvirate or whatever. I can't picture it right now. And I think the thing is, like we said, if Goodell's still here next year, year after that, we don't necessarily have to picture it.
Yeah.
But when it comes, there will be a bad guy, and we'll know who it is.
And Mike, you do a lot of work with numbers. So when you hear the NFL come out and say, oh, this new kickoff rule is going to be 7% less kickoffs and 14% less concussions, do you just roll your eyes like me? I mean, where are these numbers coming from? Where are these studies? My God. Where are they getting this? They just say it and people repeat it.
Yeah. I think someone did some numbers somewhere. I'm afraid they didn't make them up. Whether they did them well or not, they did them in some way. And the trick to that is if you just take 2 or 3 years ago's numbers and say, well, this is what the numbers were and they're going to change, you forget the simple fact that these coaches are going to come up with something else. So the reason why there were short kickoffs going to the 3-yard line and guys running them out from the 3-yard line and injuries resulting from that is because when they moved the kickoff to the 25, Bill Belichick said, hey, you know what's better than a touchback? Some dude taking a pooch punt at the corner at the 1-yard line and trying to run with it, we can get him on the 15. So you get these. So when you change the rule, the Belichicks and the Harbaughs and the special teams genius coaches are going to come up with something else along the way. So I've heard people say, why don't they do the XFL version of the kickoff? Why don't they eliminate the kickoff altogether? And I think the reason why is it's hard for me to imagine football without kickoffs. It's just part of the game. But I don't think I'd miss the kickoff in about 2 or 3 years after it's gone. I don't miss touchback. That's what we often see.
Why would you? Yeah.
Right.
Touchback is I would advocate banning it rather than what they're doing now. It's like, what's the point? Just ban it. Start at the 25.
The point is, I think they can sandwich a commercial in.
Very good point. That's an outstanding point. I didn't even think about that. Get another commercial in there. Make some more money. All right, Mike, I asked you enough numbers questions, so now I'm going to ask you a subjective question because John and I have been kicking this around all off season, and it'll start to play out when the season starts. The Eagles have changes coming, personnel. They lost a lot of free agents. They brought some guys in. They had a very good draft and everything else. But they lost both their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. Now, they have a very good head coach. We like Sirianni and think that he's moved up quite quickly in the ranks of NFL coaches after only 2 years. How big a loss is this going to be for the Eagles? They introduced both their offense coordinator and defense coordinator to the media for the first time just a couple of weeks ago. Both were pretty impressive to me, but talking is one thing, actually coaching is another. Yeah. How big a factor is it going to be for the Eagles that they have 2 new coordinators going into the season trying to defend the NFC Championship?
It is so hard to say. And when you go through the history of, Super Bowl losing teams, championship teams, they lose their coordinators all the time. And it's a hodgepodge. Sometimes the team turns into an assembly line of coaches, and sometimes it falls apart immediately, and you can't tell along the way. The reason why, as a fan, I wouldn't push the panic button is because of the level of continuity, particularly offensive and defensive lines, and I would throw the secondary into that. Okay, these coaches are taking over veteran groups on both sides of the ball. They're not like making wholesale changes on both sides of the ball there. The Eagles remain strong on the offensive line. They've rebuilt kind of on the defensive line, and they made that point of keeping a lot of guys in the secondary. That should bulwark them if they have a downturn in coaching. And that's what I'm hanging my hat on right now.
All right, last one from me, at Mike Tanyer. Make sure you follow Mike on Twitter, New York Times. You can read them there. Mike, we talked about kickers, kickoffs a little bit, so why not end it with punters? This is partially to get this news to Jody as well. Matt Araiza is visiting with the New York Jets today. But as a whole, punters, are we getting to the points where, there was that, I'm sure you remember that one high school coach, it was probably about 10, 15 years ago. I wish I remembered his name. Doesn't punt, does not punt, just keeps going for it, going no matter where he is.
Yeah.
Are we getting to the point where the punter and the kicker they might be gone sooner than we expect.
That one's hard to say because on the one side you have that. On the other side, you have the Eagles going for it more than any other team last year and doing so more in the past, and other teams going there. On the other hand, Ryan Stonehouse of the Titans pretty much set the punting record.
That's true. What a leg.
What a leg. So you have these guys who, when you need them, can put the ball 55, 60 yards down the field consistently. So I can't imagine them disappearing. And because they're so specialized jobs, and that kicker when it's time for a 55-yarder is so important, and that punter when you are backed up to your own end zone is so important, I think that they're always going to be a punter and a kicker on an NFL roster, and I think they will be two different guys. It's just a matter of, I think we're at the point now where we generally don't think about them much or care about them. We worried about Siposs in the playoff game when he was shanking them.
You only worry about them when something goes wrong. They're like long snappers at this point. You never pay attention to the long snapper until you get that first crappy snap.
Right.
Same thing with kickers at this point.
Right. So what I think we might say is you want to let that guy who can kick it 50 yards consistently, and maybe a guy who is a fake threat. Somebody who could be a fake, like Johnny Hecker was for years, where he could throw the ball pretty well, or like Telchik, who could run way back in the day. And beyond that, it's just a guy. It's just a functionary on your roster.
All right, I'm going to get one last question. I was going to wrap it up, but since McMullen went there, I now have to go there with you, Tanyer. You've heard the phrase ringing in my ear. Did you hear the ringing in your ear because somebody was talking about you? I'm asking you if you heard the ringing in your ear yesterday when Aaron Rodgers pulled up with a calf cramp in Jets practice, because I think I saw a tweet of yours said recently, I made a living out of making fun of the Jets. You laughed. I heard it. Karmically, I heard you laugh when it was reported that Aaron Rodgers had a leg cramp at Jet camp. Was I correct?
I heard the ringing in the ear when he started talking about all he knew about New Jersey was the Jersey Shore show, was the situation in Snooki. And that was like ringing in my ears. And all I could think of is Aaron Rodgers. I love New Jersey. You guys love New Jersey.
Yes.
We love the shore. We love the casinos. Aaron Rodgers is not going to love New Jersey. So stop pretending you're going to love New Jersey, Aaron Rodgers. He'll be fine. The cramp will heal. He's not used to working this time of year. The cramp is going to heal. But we have not heard the last of Aaron Rodgers' misadventures up there in Florham Park, up there in North Jersey.
We're going to get Aaron Rodgers down here to South Jersey. We're taking him to Ponzio's Diner, the only place I have ever hung out with McMullen. Great place there. Yeah, don't worry about it. Aaron, we'll get you down here. It'll be great. Mike Tanyer, it is always fun whenever you come aboard. Appreciate it much. We'll certainly get you up again once the camps get open. Thanks for jumping in with us today.
Always a pleasure, guys. Enjoy the summer.
Is it actually going to come? I'm waiting for the summer.
It's going to come this afternoon. It's going to be in the 80s, Jody. You got 40s in the morning.
And then I'll have to put my coat on again tomorrow morning to get the dog out. What the hell?
Yeah, it's tough.
Not happy about the weather. All right, McMullen and McDonald coming back. You know what we got to do. Put a bow on the show.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Back coming down the home stretch here on Birds 365. We thank Mike and Mike guys. Not Greenberg and Golick. No, that would be Gill and Tanyer for hopping on with us as our guest today. Always fun shooting the breeze with both of those two guys. All right, Johnny Mac. Eagles in, what are they, still in phase 2, haven't elevated to phase 3 the way everybody else in the league has?
Phase 2. They're still working out, but they don't get into phase 3, which is everything you see around the NFL. Everybody's looking at quarterback mechanics, Jody. I see a bunch of quarterback mechanics. Everybody's raving about quarterback mechanics.
And everybody liked the way Aaron Rodgers threw the football yesterday. Duh. He's only been doing it for a decade. Were you not watching him do it in Green Bay? Oh, my God. Look at the way he throws the football. Yeah, he's been doing that way for a long time.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good throwing
his mechanics have been, continue to be pretty good at his advanced age of 40. But when are they going to make more veterans available to you media guys?
Today.
All right, so I need the John McMullen prediction.
Wow.
You gave us a couple of guys last week. I think you hit on a couple when they made the veterans available. Brandon Graham's pretty much a given today, isn't he?
Yeah, I said that yesterday, I think. Yeah, Brandon, I'm going 100% on Brandon.
100% on that one. All right, give us the percentage on the other guys. How many are you going to get?
I'm
and who are the most likely candidates?
Well, we got 4 last week and a coach, so I'm going to go 4 this week and a coach. I'm going to go Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson. Then I have to Devontae Smith. And I'm going to throw my wild card's going to be Nakobe Dean because he's going to be the leader of this defense.
I hope so.
And you got to get him out there. I'm going to go Nakobe Dean and coach. I think they're giving us new coaches. We got Alex Tanney last week. So I'm going to go DJ Elliott in that Nakobe Dean theme, linebackers coach.
Well, if you're linebacker correct, there's something I am seriously not rooting for. And I feel bad because I guess I'm bad mouthing a guy, but the truth is what the truth is. I don't want to see Nicholas Morrows today because that tells me they are not going to be interested in my guy Patrick Queen, that they're ready to go to war with Nicholas Morrow.
No, you don't have to worry about that. They might be interested. You don't have to worry about Patrick Queen in interest. They have interest. Nicholas Morrow's contract tells you everything you need to know. They didn't give him one red penny, 1 red cent of guaranteed money.
So there's no shot whatsoever. It's a 0. If you're going 100% on Brandon Graham, you're telling me there's 0% shot Nicholas Morrow is going to be made available to you media guys.
You know me, I'm going to leave the door open 2% because maybe everybody else says no, and he's in the hallway and they say grab him.
Morrow, get in here. We need somebody to talk to these guys for 15 minutes. We shall see. All right, Johnny Mac, have a good one talking to the Eagle players today. You and I will be talking about that tomorrow, correct? You're here. You're in. You going to join me?
Yeah. Plan on it. Day to day, baby. Day to day.
We shall see who the Eagles make available. We'll be talking about it here on Birds 365 tomorrow in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.